Go. So just I'll pull over here in some shade for a minute. But I just wanted to come live with you guys, and I know it's the last second live. We didn't have anything planned, but just want to tell you about some updates that's coming up for this week and what you can look forward to on the channel in the coming future, like very, very near. So later this week, we will be leaving and headed on our next road trip. We are headed to Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. And that will be happening this week. We leave later this week, headed there. So I just want to give you a few updates as to what is coming up and what kind of content you're going to be seeing in the immediate future. So, like I said, we leave for Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina later this week. And we are headed to go and do a little bit of Civil War content, but more than less. We want to focus on something I haven't really focused on a whole lot on this channel, which is the American Revolution. So we will be going to Savannah, Georgia, taking a deep dive into the Battle of Savannah. And it was actually one of the most important conflicts during the whole American Revolution. Hey, Dustin. Morning, Josh. Hope you're feeling better. I am. For you guys that didn't see the community post earlier this week on YouTube, I've been down all week with some kind of stomach bug. I'm still a little bit up under the weather, but I'm feeling better. And I finally got my first cup of coffee in over a week. But Savannah, Georgia will be taking a deep dive into the American Revolution. We will also be going to Charleston and be taking a dive into the Siege of Charleston during the American Revolution. Now, will you see some Civil War content as well? Yes, we're going to film a couple of Civil War related videos, but I'm more or less focusing on the American Revolution in this one because it's not something I have focused a whole lot on, and it's not something a whole lot of people do focus on. There's a whole lot more Civil War content out there than is American Revolution. The History Underground has a couple of videos where he went to Boston and a few other places, but we have some stuff from Pennsylvania coming up from the American Revolution. We have Valley Forge coming up and just a few videos. We're almost finished up with Gettysburg, so for you guys that's getting tired of hearing about Gettysburg, Gettysburg's almost done. We've got a couple of cool museums we're going to be showing you. And that is also one other museum in Gettysburg we're going to be featuring on the channel, which is the Beyond the Battle Museum that is coming up for you guys that haven't been able to visit. And you may have saw JD's videos. I'm not really going through. I'm really going a whole different route than what JD does because I don't want to, copy anything he's did. So I kind of just take you real quick through the museum, show you some of the items that's in there, and kind of give you a glimpse into what your experience is going to be if you go to the Beyond the Battle Museum in Gettysburg. After we wrap up on Gettysburg, then you will see some Antietam content, Harper's Ferry content, Battle of Newmarket. Then we will jump into the American Revolution, starting with Valley Forge, and then Philadelphia with Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell. And then we will jump into Savannah and Charleston, and then that series. And then later this year on the channel, after we kind of wrap up with these few videos that we're shooting there in Savannah and Charleston, we will be taking you with us to New York, upstate New York, to dive into some French and Indian War content, which is never hardly seen, I have found on YouTube. It's very far and in between with French and Indian War content, and it's an area of history I am really interested in. So I am really, really eager to get those episodes up, but of course we got to get to New York first and film them. So we will be doing that. For you guys that have not already subscribed on Instagram, go do that. History Saver 1941 on Instagram. Also History Saver 1941 YouTube on TikTok. And you can find our TikTok channels there. If you can't remember the name, well, there's a lot of shorts I've reposted from TikTok here. Also, make sure that you tune in today, probably in just an hour or so, to our channel here on YouTube as we premiere the next video from Gettysburg, which is going to be from the peach orchard itself. Last episode, we were in the Sherfy farm talking about the 57th veteran, Pennsylvania Veteran Volunteers. One of my favorite least known units that people don't often focus on to dive into. I know Vlogging Through History said it was one of his, favorite units at Gettysburg to dive into because he actually had ancestors that fought with them. I did not even realize that until after he had commented on that last episode. So it's pretty cool. I had run across, what got me interested in the 57th Pennsylvania Veteran Volunteers is I was doing some research from the Sherfy farm, ran across their accounts. They actually have some accounts that were published. There's books out there of that you can buy. They are extremely expensive. I think the copy I had, well, I don't even want to tell you how much it costs. Let's just say it was in the hundreds. So they are extremely expensive. I don't know if there's any republished copies or not, but I have one of the original first run copies. And that thing is one of the heartbeats of my collection, man. It's absolutely awesome. And there's some cool accounts in there, and we share a couple of those with you. This episode that is coming up today on the channel is going to be from the peach orchard and the Trossel farm. The History Underground, you will see JD from the History Underground make a little cameo appearance in the video. We actually ran into him by accident when we were filming at the peach orchard. So we ran into each other on the battlefield like 3 times, I think, the entire weekend. Like, it just lined up. We kept on getting put in the same place for some off-the-wall reason. So you'll see him in this episode for just a brief moment. And the Trossel farm, you'll see some of the cool history of the Trossel farm, not only with Sickles' wounding, but also a very history. JD, History Underground is highly overrated. I don't think so. The History Underground is my favorite YouTube channel, and you teach me a lot on there. So, and you teach everybody a lot on there. I think I speak for everyone. So, yeah, I'm glad you created the History Underground. I'm glad your students taught you into doing that, because it's absolutely amazing. And I learned a lot while we was at Gettysburg. And the 57th Pennsylvania Veteran Volunteers was one of the units I have become most eager to learn more about. Of course, I'm an Iron Brigade guy. I love the Iron Brigade, those damned black cats, and I love the Irish Brigade history. But the 57th has grown on me, and it was nice to get into Gettysburg. And to me, the thing I love about visiting battlefields is this. And it's got to do with reading all of these accounts, reading the strategic things about these battles. But you can't really grasp it until you stand on the land and get the layout of the terrain. Because in the peach orchard, I will say this, after I ended up running into JD there, I went on about my way filming my episode there. And I went into the middle of the peach orchard. You got all these peach trees around you. You can just get that visual picture. The peach orchard was a eye target for Sickles because he thought it was higher ground. He thought it was better ground. You can't really see that until you stand in the middle of the peach orchard. And when you stand in the middle of peach orchard, you see this hill, just low-lying hill, but it gives you a vantage point, and it looks strategically like a better piece of ground. I had all of these things in my head that I thought about Sickles. I thought he was an idiot before. I'm not going to lie. I was one of these guys that was like, Sickles, was absolutely horrible for what he did. He went over his chain of command, did what they told him not to do, and left this big gap in his line. After standing there and seeing that terrain and seeing kind of what he was looking at, in a way, I was like, hey, I see what he was doing here. And it kind of changed my mindset about a lot of things I thought about the man. And that is one of the things, like Kennesaw, when I stood on, in Kennesaw, Georgia, you see the terrain, you see that hill, you see, because as you're reading about it, you say, well, these Federal soldiers were what, 50 yards away from the Confederate lines, and how did they not get like immediately overrun and shot to where and back, and when you stand there, you see why that was. You see why they were pinned down there. You see why there was such a short distance between the Confederates and the Union troops. So standing in battlefields, looking at the terrain and getting that sense of the strategic importance of that terrain and what it played, the crucial parts it played in those battles, is something you can't understand until you stand in the places. So as I've created this YouTube channel and I've been going to these places and filming, and then it urges me to learn more, and I learn more from you guys, and I love learning and reading and studying these battles and men and units. But until I started doing this and going in these places and standing there and forcing myself to look at these places strategically, and all the strategies that was involved, I never realized the importance of the lay of the land. During the Civil War, you had line of sight, line of fire. And you see how that played into effect. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to stand in these places and see that for yourself. So that's just, if you guys want to know what is going through my mind when I'm in these places, as I'm filming these episodes, and why sometimes I get so scatterbrained and then overloads of information ends up coming out of my mouth like an idiot, and I sound like a rumbling idiot. That is why, because I'm standing there and I'm just getting overexcited. I feel kind of like Gary Edelman in a way, because I'm like, oh, they were here, and I start talking on my hands too for watching so much Gary Edelman. But you gotta love him. Gary Edelman's one of the best Civil War historians out there, in my opinion. He's been a childhood idol to me since I was 7 years old, when he first published the first book on Devil's Den. So yeah, I mean, that's what goes through my mind. So I'm really excited to dive into some French and Indian War content. I have a family background in the French and Indian War due to the Last of the Mohegans. Of course, you guys have heard of the movie. You've probably heard of the book. Well, the book was written based off of the original book was written based off of some of my great-great-great-great-grandfather's journal accounts. He was an officer during the French and Indian Wars. He had a lot of correspondence between him and General Washington. And he was in these places where, when the book Last of the Mohegans was written, the original book, he was in these places and he had kept journal accounts about things he had went through and things he had did and saw. And his journal somehow fell into the hands of the writer. And what is running through your head is WWJD. What would JD do? That's always running through my head, because, I mean, he goes to some cool places. Yeah, that's always going through my head. But these journal accounts of my grandfather influenced a lot of the stuff that's in the book, Last of the Mohegans, as far as the military actions. And there's a whole history. I want to do a video on this later, but it's going to take a really deep dive for me to do so, and to kind of help you guys understand what I'm talking about. And I'll share those journal accounts with you and copies of the original journal writings, and kind of coordinate back and forth how they go hand in hand with the book Last of the Mohegans, which then, the movie Last of the Mohegans is created with Daniel Day-Lewis, and now it's all popular. But it's really cool to read through his journal accounts, because he actually kept some very good journals, and I have copies of his letters as well that he had written between him and George Washington. Him and George Washington hated one another. They did not get along. George Washington hated him, and he hated Washington. He called, one of his letters, he called Washington a womanizing gambler, and I can't say the rest because it's not proper. But he did not like Washington at all. And then there was people like John Quincy Adams that he was, also mentioning in some of these letters. I mean, he was up there. He was actually considered for command of some of the Continental Forces during the American Revolution, but Washington and some other people said that he was too old. His mind was gone, and yeah, they just didn't get along. And they ended up getting him released from the military, because They said he was too old and incompetent and just couldn't do it because of his age. And it's a whole history. And that's the reason why I'm excited to do some of this stuff on the French and Indian Wars, because I've never been to any French and Indian War sites myself. So I'm able to take you guys along with us as we go to upstate New York later next month and visit some of those places. So yeah, a lot coming up. Gettysburg will be wrapping up soon. I know you guys are probably getting tired at this point of Gettysburg and you want to see something different. So we're going to wrap up Gettysburg. We have a few more episodes left after today's episode is airing, and then we will go into Antietam, Harpers Ferry, Newmarket, and then we'll switch gears to the American Revolution, to Valley Forge, Liberty Bell, Independence Hall. And Independence Hall, a funny story. When you guys end up watching this episode of Independence Hall, oh man, JD, I hope you're still watching, because I want you to hear this one. So I go in and they've got the article, they've got copies of the original documents in there, and the Constitution, things like this. And I mean, it's a really cool exhibit. And I walk in there, I'm like in there literally 5 minutes before this place closes at the end of the day. I'm catching the very last tour of Independence Hall. And I'm like, while I'm waiting in this long line, my wife is holding my spot in line for me. And I'm like, I'm going to run in here before they close, and I want to see these documents and get some footage. So I did. I walk in, and there's this lady. She's in her 30s. She is American. She is from the U.S., and I hear her talking to the park ranger beside me. You can actually hear this in the audio of the episode that you guys will see when the episode from Independence Hall pops up. So I'm kind of giving you a spoiler here. But I actually hear this woman go, "Who is George Washington, and what did he do?" Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or just go, what? This lady actually asked the National Park Service ranger, who was George Washington? Like, who is he? You keep mentioning Washington. Who is George Washington? And I'm like, and you can hear this in the audio of the episode you guys are going to see. I'm going to enhance it because I do not have her face on video, but I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. Not surprising. Man, I wish I could say I wasn't surprised. I shouldn't have been surprised. But even a park ranger, you can clearly hear his voice in the background. Huh? Like, yeah. So this is what a lot of people are talking about. JD talks about it all the time. Chris has talked about it. Project Past has talked about it. All these historians talk about the gap of history education. There is a gap here, people. I've had many young kids. I work, with younger kids all the time. I've, done stuff at schools. And I've had kids tell me that China won the American Revolution. Yeah, this is the reason why the History Underground is this. This is the reason why Vlogging Through History, Project Past is this. Addressing Gettysburg, Forward Gettysburg, History in Your Hands, Sandra VK. That's the reason why all these history channels exist. Not only because we love history, we love, going to these places, but I know and that's the reason why I love the history content creators on YouTube. It's the reason why I support everybody's channels, because I'm a history nerd. I love learning. Every time I watch anyone else's videos, I learn so much. And that's the reason why they do this, because they want to teach people. And they love history themselves. They want to teach people. So that is the reason why that all these history channels exist. And that's the reason why I like supporting everyone, because I'm just a history nerd. My day starts every morning at 4 a.m. with a cup of coffee and some kind of history podcast, or I start reading a book, after I do some personal things I do every day. And my day starts with history and ends every night with a history book in my hand. Every night. I don't watch TV. I do not watch TV at all. I watch YouTube. That's it. I mean, I'll watch, history related stuff, history channel stuff sometimes, history apps, Discovery. I'll watch things like that, but, I won't watch TV. I'll watch everything from my tablet or phone, because, that's the only thing I care about watching really is history stuff. And the history gap in this country is so bad. So when I'm going in these places and I'm talking, I have people come up to me. A lot of times I'm learning stuff from other people. I love learning. I love being told, hey, you said something wrong. I love that. A lot of people get offended by it. I love it because I'm able to like, oh, okay, well, let me take a little deeper dive into this. Let me learn more and see if this is the truth about it and see what I've been doing wrong. So yeah, I love that. And that is the reason why I love doing this channel. I love the content. And, I love bringing you guys into my world of reenacting, because just by reenacting, when you put yourself in the elements of the guys during World War II, you learn so much. I mean, you're actually experiencing what it's like to sleep in a foxhole and freeze your butt off. I mean, those guys had it 10 times worse. Trust me, I would never be able to grasp the full experience that they had, or neither do I want to. I mean, those guys, every day was a matter of, I may go home, I may not. And I may have to take a life today, and I may not. I mean, just alone taking a life, I don't know if I could do it. I just don't know. I'm not that kind of person. And I have a very guilty conscience, extremely guilty conscience. Even if I'm upset someone, I can't stand that. It just weighs on me so bad. And to have to take a life, yeah, I don't know if I could do that. But you get these experiences when you're able to do reenacting and things. So it's a lot of fun and games, but when it comes down to it, it's an experience. So, yeah. So coming up on the channel, guys, we're going to go ahead and cut this short. I know you got things to do this Saturday. I got things to do today too, and I'm sure you want to watch the newest episode that's going to premiere after a while here. And I know Project Past is putting up a new episode tomorrow. Make sure you check him out. JD put up an awesome new episode yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was yesterday. Awesome new episode of his channel. Check him out. Vlogging Through History. He's got some awesome content on there that I've been following all week. He's got a series he's been running that I'm really into right now. So yeah, take the day if you're not busy and go through and watch some of these episodes from these guys. Learn something. But American Revolution coming up on the channel. French and Indian War stuff coming up on the channel. We go to Charleston and Savannah this week. I'll try to do a couple of live streams if I can from there. I don't know what kind of situation I'm gonna be in there, so I'll live stream if I can. As long as we don't get hit by tropical depression. We got some things we're watching. So